morning, everyone. Hi. Hope everyone is awake, had their coffees. I've only had one, so if I start drooling and kind of like acting strange, then just pass me a cup of coffee. Okay, cool. Today's topic in the morning is to really talk about something I'm very passionate about, is attracting amazing talent. So some of you could be employers looking to hire talent, and all of us are talent, looking for the best next opportunity as well. So we thought we'll cover some data around Singapore. And I thought what we'll do today is, I don't know, do you guys feel like making this an interactive session, or would you rather me just kind of drone on for like 10 minutes? Interactive, yes? Interactive? Okay, cool. Have you guys heard of the so what, now what kind of way to evaluate and get down to a root cause of a problem? Okay, so I'm going to be presenting slides, right? So at the end of every slide, I want you guys to say, so what? And this is a good way for you. When your team comes to you and says, I have a problem, you have to say, so what? And then you get down to the whys, right? Okay, so what we wanted to do is we wanted to share some of the data that we have. As you guys know, Jobstreet is part of Seek. Seek is an APAC job marketplace and career hub. So we've got, basically businesses in Australia, New Zealand, in Asia, Singapore, Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, Hong Kong. We've got interest in Korea, China, etc. So we've got a ton of data, and a lot of that data is available for you to actually download. So whatever that you see today, you can actually download it yourself and kind of evaluate it after the presentation. But what I wanted to do is double-click into stats. So that's why I wanted you guys to say, so what, so I can go to the next slide, okay? So let's get started. Okay, let's take first top line fundamental fact. Singapore, obviously beautiful city-state, is also a very stable economy. GDP growth of 2 to 3% this year, which is pretty good considering the fact that it's a very small city-state. It's number 33 in terms of the list of GDPs from 1 to the biggest economies down. We're number 33, but our GDP growth is the same as a country like South Korea, for example. So pretty solid. And what's interesting is we are also in the middle of a very hot zone. Southeast Asia is a high growth area. Singapore is an established and first world country in an area where there's super high growth. So if you are a business and you guys see the FinTech startups and established businesses here, Singapore is obviously very exciting to be in an area where you have very strong infrastructure, but you're around a super high growth area, right? So it's also the same with talent. You could be working in Singapore and maybe you buy a villa in Bali, right? So it's also very interesting for you in that way. So if you just look at our neighbors, we have a combined Southeast Asia GDP growth of 4 to 5%, depending on the country you're at, which is really very exciting. So what? Okay. What does that mean for us in terms of jobs, talent, and how active the talent market is? Okay. For the government, it's really good news that unemployment is really low, below 2%, one of the best in the world, actually, right? But there's a flip side to this coin. So people are in jobs, so that's what an unemployment rate being so low means. There's X number of jobs or X number of roles in a country, and those roles have people working in them. However, people are looking for new opportunities, okay? So this is where it's interesting. When you have unemployment rates that are low, you have less open jobs in the market. If you had very little people looking for roles, then the number of applications per each job ad that's out there or each role would be the same as every other country. But in Singapore, it's actually higher than every other country. So 35% of applications per job increase year on year versus Southeast Asia, which is 25% increase year on year. So it means that people are in jobs, but they are looking out for new opportunities. So what? You want to know? Okay, this is getting interesting. Okay, before I go to the so what in terms of why people are looking for work, let's just look at which sectors are the most active. If you look at Singapore, for instance, let's compare it with our neighbor Malaysia. You look at STEM jobs, so science, tech, engineering, mathematics, very, very high in Singapore. Obviously continuing to get investments from abroad in terms of very high tech, as well as R&D development within Singapore itself. So a lot of interest in this area. Compared to, let's say, our neighbor, maybe slightly less in terms of engineering right now, kind of dropped off year on year. Also because they are not an R&D center, they are a manufacturing center, which means that a lot of investments are tied to larger economies like the US and China. So for instance, if Dell lets go of people, for instance, it may affect Malaysia more than Singapore, right? Because that's manufacturing. Singapore is more in the R&D space. Oh, okay, getting more active now. Okay, great. Okay. Another fact before we go into the so what, as you guys know, and I see across the room, Singapore is a melting pot. It's an incredibly exciting destination to work. Would you guys agree? Yes? Okay, as a country, Singapore is ranked number 8 in the world's most exciting places to work. But as a city, it's ranked number 7. So as a city, we are the number 1 city in Asia, APAC, actually, that people want to work in. Ahead of Tokyo, ahead of Sydney, Singapore is number 1 in Asia as a city, right? And the reasons are very clear. Obviously, quality of job opportunities, a regional hub, lots of great businesses, fintech, startups, R&D, great quality of life, incredibly safe place, lots of greens, lots of healthy activities, of course, the strength of the currency, etc. Maybe the cost of living, not so much in Singapore. It is very expensive to live here, but of course, earning capacity is a lot higher in Singapore as well. So that also makes this a very interesting place for people to look for work as well, right? So when we initially looked at that slide and we said, hey, there's so much of increase in applications per job ad in the space, it's not just driven by those that are already in Singapore. It's also being driven by those that are looking to move to Singapore. But what does that mean? If you're a talent in Singapore, it doesn't matter where they are, right? You're still competing with all of these other applicants. No, not yet. Not yet. Still, so what? Okay, so what does it mean for the Singapore talent base? And this one was really something, for me, was quite surprising. In terms of talent mobility, and what we mean here is wanting to work abroad. So Singapore talent that want to work elsewhere, but not just travel elsewhere. Actually, that need to go elsewhere to travel has dropped. But what 25% of job seekers are looking for job opportunities in other countries where they can work remotely. That means stay in Singapore, but apply for work in another country. And obviously, let's say I work for a consulting firm in Australia, but I live in Singapore. So I earn Australian dollars, but I live in Singapore, right? And what's interesting is Singapore, in terms of looking for remote work, has accelerated. If you look at us 5 years ago versus where we are now, there's a 11% increase in wanting to find remote work. Okay, so now you see there's kind of like some behaviors that are starting to form in terms of what candidates or job seekers are looking for their next place of work. That also explains why they're looking for work even though they may be already employed, right? Okay. So what are they? So, sorry, I didn't ask you guys so what. So I'll say, so what? Okay. What are the most important things for a Singapore job seeker? So number 1, compensation. Actually higher than global average. So we are obviously very kiasu, we continue to be. But it's okay, because we do live in a very expensive country, so obviously salaries are important. Financial compensation is number 1. But you know what's interesting? Obviously, post-pandemic, we all know this, right? We all want work-life balance. We want to have the flexibility of having hybrid work, or we want to have the ability to have remote work. So that work-life balance is very, very high in Singapore, actually in line with global averages. But actually higher than our neighbors. Our neighbors are willing to take a job even if the work-life balance may be slightly compromised. Singaporeans are not. You're looking for more work-life balance, right? And what's interesting about Singapore that's actually quite different is this requirement to have a relationship with the superior, as in like have a good working relationship with the superior team. So having a mentor relationship or being able to learn, that's a lot higher than anywhere else. So you can see that the job, okay, obviously financial compensation is a very quantitative quality that you're looking for when you're looking for a job, but there's a lot of emotive things that are also at play now for Singapore job seekers. Work-life balance. I want to spend time with family. I want to spend time with my child. I also want to have a great working relationship so I can actually enjoy work. So it's very, very different. Okay. Okay. So with all of that, with this whole change, with the shift of maybe I want to work remote, maybe I need to compete with foreign talent. I know that if a lot of jobs that are coming up are in the STEM space, so science, technology, engineering, mathematics, I need almost like a co-pilot to help me out with this. And this is where I think AI has come in and really helped a lot of us do that. And it's good to know that Singapore, along with our neighbors, really, really high use of AI. Actually, one of the highest in the world. 39% use AI regularly. Over a third use it at work. And almost 60% are open to reskilling, which is very, very key. But also tied back to that need to find a job that fits them, but they're willing to put in the work to basically get those jobs. So I think that's really very exciting. Okay, now you can ask the other question. Now what? Okay, so we've understood that there is a shift. We're no longer just looking for work for work's sake. There's a lot of emotional stuff that is tied around or packaged around looking for work. So what does it mean for someone who is offering jobs and trying to attract talent? So of course, you are lucky because you have so many people applying for jobs. But then it's not just about people applying for jobs because the job seeker is also picky, right? If you don't fit all of these things that they're looking for, they're not going to take the job. So these are strategies that we have, we employ ourselves as a company, but these are also strategies that we feel are very, very strong in helping you attract the best talent. So how many of you here regularly hire talent? Okay, quite a number of you. Okay, the first one is, like any sort of advertising and marketing, it has to be based on understanding your target audience. Sorry, I'm pointing to my marketing head. Liana, do you want to say hi to everyone? So yesterday she was telling all of us over and over again how targeting is so important. So there's no point doing 10 things if it's not targeted. So same thing with your job seeking. If you don't know your audience, how do you know how to write your ad? How do you know that talking about work-life balance, which your company provides, is important? How do you know that, if they're looking for remote work and you're willing to offer that, but you don't write it in the ad, it may not attract the type of candidate that you're looking for. So I think understanding your target audience, super, super important. Second one is about the brand. So here, your brand as an employer is not something that you just leave with the marketing team. It is really something that we have to embody. Let me give you an example, right? Okay, so we're talking about STEM. We're talking about how hard it is to hire the best talent. Although talent may be coming from everywhere, talent have their own requirements, etc. And I guess to a certain extent, if you are top tier talent, you probably have choice to join any company that's looking for the sort of skills that you offer. Let's take an example. You guys have heard of SpaceX? Elon Musk, one of his companies, SpaceX, they do reusable rockets. That's really their current innovation, where they can send a rocket to space, get it to land back, reuse it, etc., saving a ton of money and being able to actually carry bigger loads up to space. Like they recently did a lot of stuff around the space station. Okay, so if you think you are SpaceX right now and you're hiring for SpaceX, you're competing with NASA, you're competing with the European Space Agency, you're competing with very established R&D centers for this sort of space travel. And you need to, let's say, send a rocket to space at an accelerated speed, right? You need to get it all ready within a few years when NASA had like 60 years. So you need to hire the best people ever, right? The best out of the best have to join you. And they may not be motivated just by money. Of course, the first thing you can offer is offer them increased salaries. You may get a lot of Singaporeans applying for the job because that's top of mind. But what I mean is you need to have something that really grabs this emotional side. So SpaceX, their purpose, check this out, right? SpaceX exists to make humankind multi-planetary. So they exist as a company and a business to make all of us as humans have the ability to live in Mars, live in space stations, mine asteroids, etc., right? So their goal is beyond, like a huge goal. It's not just, oh, we want to explore space or we want to send satellites to space. It's not something that's very utility-based. It's very, very emotive. And so, therefore, they attract the best talent. So, similar, I mean, at Seek, all of us at Seek here work at Seek, I think largely because we believe in the purpose. So Seek exists to help people live more fulfilling and productive work lives, one part, and to help organizations succeed, the second part. The first part, a job is such an important thing for all of us, right? A job changes lives. A job, could change someone's future. It's obviously very, very important, something that I think we all feel very passionately about. And the second part, to help organizations grow, is also huge, right? In any company with the best talent, you can grow by leaps and bounds. And that's something that if we can assist, it also feels really, really good. So that's actually one of the reasons I think we hire like some of the best talent in the market as a company ourselves, because we are very clear and we say it all the time. So it is definitely something that you guys should also do. And if you're on a platform where you're using to attract talent, ensure that your company profile is updated, you use great ads that can showcase your brand, your department, and of course, be very, very clear in terms of how you target it. And finally, it's not just candidates that are actively looking. You also need to go out there and try to find candidates as well. So that's where things like being able to search a resume database, find people that could match, and then meet up or reach out to them, I think is equally important. And of course, use all the AI tools that are currently available. I was saying we are an APAC business, for example. We have so much of data that helps us match best candidates to best jobs. So use those tools effectively to be able to find your next talent. I guess that's it. I would like to break any questions, and I can ask you guys, so what? And now what? I think we have some mics around, if anyone has questions.
Hi, thanks for the talk. Can you name any of the AI tools specifically that you're using to find talent?
Yeah, sure. So if, I'll name a few. Okay, so let's say you're an employer right now and you are posting a job, for instance. What our AI does and the large language models do is they read through your ad, and based on the data points that we have, we're instantly able to recommend 100 candidates that match that job straight away. So you can choose to reach out to them, or you can choose to send them an invite to apply for the job. So that's one way. If you're a job seeker, for example, and you're browsing different types of ads, we also put a signal up to you to help you nudge you to apply for a job that if you're kind of just browsing around but not applying, but you seem to be a very qualified candidate, we do give you a signal to say you're a highly qualified candidate for this job, to just give that confidence to say, please do apply. And then once you start the application process, then we do point out that the employer is looking for these type of skills. If you have them, it would be great for you to talk about them a bit more, etc. So all of that assistance is actually AI powered. So yeah. Yeah?
If not, thank you. Thank you, Vic, very much for your sharing.